My girlfriend used our anniversary trip to secretly meet her ex, so I canceled her ticket, left her stranded, and watched her fake life crumble. I'm a 30-year-old male, and I've been working as a financial analyst in Manhattan for about 8 years now. It's not the most glamorous job, but it pays well, and I've always been the kind of guy who enjoys treating the people I care about. For the past 3 years, I was dating Vanessa. She's 28, gorgeous, and had this whole vibe of being effortlessly cool and trendy. When we first met, she told me she was working on becoming a fashion influencer, and I was honestly impressed by her ambition. When we started dating, her following on Instagram was tiny, barely over 3,000. She posted a mix of selfies, random outfit shots, and a lot of quotes about chasing dreams. She'd talk about how one day she'd get noticed and work with big brands, but she also made it clear she was struggling to get her foot in the door. I liked her energy though. She had this way of talking about her goals that made you want to root for her and, well, I wanted to help. I wasn't trying to be some savior or anything, but I figured if I had the means to make her life easier, why not? At first it was little things, taking her out for nice dinners, helping her pick out clothes for her posts, or surprising her with gifts like accessories she mentioned wanting but couldn't afford. She'd always get so excited, saying things like, "Oh my God, this is perfect for a shoot." Watching her light up like that felt good. But as time went on, those little things started turning into bigger things. She wanted to upgrade her wardrobe to include designer pieces. "If I want brands to notice me, I have to show I understand the aesthetic," she'd say. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. So, I started buying her the occasional luxury bag or outfit. Then it became more than occasional. It didn't stop there. Soon, she wanted better pictures for her feed, not just the ones I was taking on my phone when we were out. "Professionals will make a huge difference," she said. So, I paid for a few photo sessions with local photographers. Then she needed to travel because influencers who work with brands are always at cool locations. So, I covered a couple of trips. I told myself it was just an investment in her future, and ours by extension. At least, that's what I thought at the time, to be fair. Vanessa wasn't entirely ungrateful. She'd always thank me with a big smile or post something sweet on Instagram about how lucky she was to have someone who believed in her. But after a while, the gratitude started to feel routine, like she'd just check it off the list before moving on to whatever she wanted next. And honestly, I didn't really mind at first. I cared about her, and I wanted her to succeed. But over time, it became clear she wasn't just relying on me, she was expecting it. The turning point for me came during a trip to Los Angeles about a year ago. I had paid for her flight and hotel because she was convinced this trip was going to be the one where she'd network with people who could launch her career. Instead, she spent the entire time taking selfies, shopping, and lounging by the pool. No networking, no meetings, no effort to actually make connections. When I gently brought it up, she brushed me off, saying, "You don't understand how this works. It's about building an image first." It was the first time I thought, am I being used? But I pushed the thought aside because, honestly, I am financially secure. I figured she was just trying to find her way and needed time to figure things out. Besides, we were still happy together, or so I thought. Fast forward to our 3rd anniversary. I wanted to make it special, something we'd both remember. So I planned a luxury getaway to Montauk. I went all out, booked a gorgeous suite with ocean views, reserved tables at the best restaurants, and even planned a couple of activities I thought she'd enjoy, like a sunset cruise. When I showed her the plans, I expected her to be over the moon, but her reaction wasn't what I thought it would be. "Montauk is nice," she said, hesitating, "but there's this other coastal town I've been dying to visit. It's smaller, more unique. I've heard great things about the restaurants and shops there." Her tone was sweet, but something about it felt off. I mean, who turns their nose up at Montauk? I asked her why she wanted to go there specifically, and she just said, "I think it'll be more romantic. Plus, it's somewhere we haven't been before." She was so insistent, and I didn't want to ruin the moment by arguing, so I caved. After all, it wasn't like I was married to the idea of Montauk. If it made her happy, I was happy. Or at least that's what I told myself. Looking back, that was the first real warning sign. Vanessa wasn't just being particular about where we went, she had an agenda. I just didn't realize it yet. The trip started out great, on the surface at least. We arrived at this cute coastal town Vanessa had picked, and she seemed thrilled. As soon as we checked into the hotel, she was all over the place, snapping photos of the room, the view, even the complimentary chocolates on the pillow. She kept saying, "This is going to get so many likes," and I'd laugh along, not realizing how much that summed up her priorities. The first day was pretty chill. We went to the beach, had some great seafood for lunch, and explored a couple of local shops. Vanessa was glowing, and I couldn't help but feel like maybe I'd done the right thing by letting her pick the destination. I mean, her happiness was worth it, right? That's what I kept telling myself. But by dinner, things started to feel a little off. We were sitting at this cozy little Italian place, and out of nowhere, Vanessa brought up marriage. "You know," she started, twirling her fork around her pasta, "we've been together for 3 years now. That's a long time." I nodded, not thinking much of it. "Yeah, it has been," I said, smiling. "It feels like it's flown by," she smiled back. But in this way that felt a little too calculated. "Don't you think it's time we start talking about the future? About, settling down?" I froze for a second because this wasn't a conversation I was expecting on this trip. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't against the idea of marriage, but we'd never seriously talked about it before, and her timing felt strange. "I mean, it's definitely something to think about," I replied cautiously. "But are you sure this is something you want to bring up now?" Vanessa laughed lightly, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Why not? It's a romantic trip, perfect time to talk about what's next for us." I shrugged, trying to play it cool. "Fair enough. What exactly do you mean by what's next?" She leaned in, her tone shifting. "Well, it just makes sense to start planning for marriage, doesn't it? It's the next step. And if we got married, things like finances would be so much easier. We'd share everything, no more keeping things separate." Ah, there it was. I couldn't put my finger on why, but the way she said it made my stomach twist. It wasn't about love or commitment, it was about money. I took a sip of water, trying to buy time to process what she was saying. "I mean, sharing finances is a big step," I said, "but honestly, I think if marriage were on the table, I'd probably want to talk about a prenup first, just to make sure we're both protected." Vanessa's face changed instantly. She put her fork down and stared at me like I'd just insulted her entire family. "A prenup?" she repeated, her voice sharp. "Why would you even think about something like that?" Her reaction caught me off guard. "It's not about mistrust," I said quickly, trying to smooth things over. "It's just a practical step. It protects both people, you know." She laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laugh I was used to from her. It was cold, dismissive. "Wow, I didn't realize you thought I'd try to take advantage of you." "That's not what I said," I replied, feeling a little defensive. "I just think it's smart to have everything clear from the beginning. It doesn't mean I don't trust you." The next day, things were tense. Vanessa acted like nothing was wrong, at least on the surface. She posted pictures of her breakfast on Instagram with captions about vacation bliss, and talked about what she wanted to do that day. But there was this underlying frostiness in the way she interacted with me. She wasn't outright rude or mean, but she wasn't as affectionate as she usually was. It was like she was punishing me for the prenup conversation without actually saying anything. Still, I tried to shake it off. I figured maybe she just needed some space to process. Relationships have bumps, right? No big deal. I decided to focus on making the day fun and relaxed. We spent the morning wandering around the town, stopping in little boutiques and taking in the sights. Vanessa seemed to warm up a bit, but every now and then, she'd drop a comment that made me pause. "This town is so charming," she said at one point. "It's the kind of place I'd love to come back to, maybe with someone who sees the value in it." I blinked. "What does that mean?" She waved me off with a laugh. "Nothing, I'm just saying it's romantic, that's all." Little remarks like that kept popping up throughout the day. I told myself I was overthinking things, but part of me couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It wasn't just the comments or the lingering tension from dinner, it was her overall vibe. She seemed distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. Deep down, I knew this wasn't just casual talk for her. She wasn't pushing for marriage because she was in love. She was pushing for it because she saw it as a way to lock in access to my life, my finances, and everything else that came with being with me. By the time we went to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that the woman I thought I knew wasn't the same person sitting next to me. The third morning of the trip started like any other. Vanessa was scrolling on her phone while lying in bed, completely absorbed in whatever influencer content she was consuming. I got up and ordered room service for breakfast, figuring we'd have a relaxing morning before heading out to explore more of the town. While we were eating, she suddenly perked up. "Oh my God," she said, showing me her phone. "There's this bag shop downtown that's like, iconic. They only carry super exclusive pieces. It's the kind of place I'd never get to shop at back home." I nodded, mid-bite of my toast. "Sounds cool. Want me to go with you?" Vanessa shook her head quickly, almost too quickly. No, you don't have to. I know shopping isn't really your thing. Besides, it's probably going to take me forever to decide what I want, and I don't want you to be bored." That struck me as odd. We'd been doing everything together on this trip. Why suddenly the need for alone time? But I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. "All right," I said casually. "Just let me know if you need anything." She smiled sweetly. "You're the best," she said, leaning over to kiss my cheek. "I'll probably just be gone an hour or two." An hour or two turned into 4. At first I didn't think much of it. Vanessa could be indecisive when it came to shopping, especially for big purchases. But as the hours ticked by, I started to feel uneasy. I hadn't gotten a single text or call from her, which was unusual. Vanessa was the kind of person who updated me on everything, whether she found a cute cafe or tried on a dress she loved. I always got a running commentary. Today, silence. I decided to check our shared credit card to see if she'd made any purchases. Nothing. No charges from the bag shop, no charges from anywhere. That didn't make sense. If she'd been shopping for hours, surely something would have shown up. My gut told me something was off, so I grabbed my jacket and headed out. I wandered downtown for a bit, checking out the shops and keeping an eye out for Vanessa. Eventually, I found myself near the marina, where the town's boardwalk ended in a quiet, scenic area with benches overlooking the water. That's when I saw her. She wasn't alone. Vanessa was sitting on a bench with a man I immediately recognized. Ryan, her ex-boyfriend. He'd popped up in a few of her old Instagram posts when we first started dating, but she'd assured me they were long over. They were sitting close, too close. Vanessa was laughing at something Ryan had said, her hand resting casually on his arm. He leaned in, his body language comfortable and intimate in a way that made my skin crawl. I stayed where I was, hidden behind a nearby kiosk selling ice cream, and tried to get a handle on my emotions. Part of me wanted to march over there and demand an explanation, but the other part told me to wait and watch. That's when I caught bits of their conversation. "You really convinced him to come here?" Ryan asked, smirking. Vanessa laughed, a sound that suddenly grated on me. "Of course. I told him this town was more romantic and sweet-talked him a little. He bought it, no questions asked." Ryan grinned. "Well, it worked." "I missed you." "I missed you too," Vanessa said, placing a hand on his knee. "Sneaking around has been exhausting." "Soon," Ryan said, leaning closer. "We'll figure it out. Just play along for now. You're too good at this." They laughed again, completely unaware of my presence. My hands were shaking with anger, but I forced myself to stay calm. Pulling out my phone, I snapped a few pictures of them. If Vanessa was going to lie to my face, I needed proof. I walked away, my mind racing. This wasn't just some innocent meetup with an old friend. This was a full-blown secret affair. Vanessa hadn't picked this town for its romantic charm or unique shops. She'd picked it because it was the perfect cover to see Ryan. And I'd been stupid enough to go along with it. When I got back to the hotel, I tried to collect my thoughts. Part of me wanted to confront her the second she walked through the door, but another part wanted to wait. If she was bold enough to pull this off on a trip I planned and paid for, she'd have no problem lying to my face. I needed to see how far she'd go. Vanessa finally returned a couple of hours later, carrying a shopping bag from the luxury bag shop she'd mentioned earlier. "Hey," she said brightly, as if nothing was wrong, "I found the most perfect bag. You're going to love it." I forced a smile, keeping my tone neutral. "Looks like you had a good time. How much was it?" "Oh, I used cash," she said quickly, avoiding eye contact. That was an obvious lie. Vanessa never carried cash, and I'd already checked the credit card. There were no charges from the bag shop. Ryan must have paid for the bag. The thought made my stomach churn, but I kept my composure. "And the marina?" I asked casually. Her smile faltered for a split second before she recovered. "What marina?" "Oh, I didn't go near the water. I was at the bag shop the whole time. I nodded, pretending to believe her. Got it. Sounds like a productive day. She beamed, completely oblivious to the edge in my voice. It was. Thanks for letting me do my thing. I can't wait to show you the bag. I didn't say much after that. Vanessa went about her evening as if nothing had happened, showing me the bag and talking about what she wanted to do the next day. I listened, nodding at the right moments, but inside, I was seething. The woman I thought I loved had not only betrayed me but had the audacity to use my money and my trust to pull it off. By the time she fell asleep, I'd already started planning how I was going to handle this. Vanessa thought she was in control, but she was about to find out just how wrong she was. That night, I kept replaying everything I'd seen and heard earlier at the marina. Vanessa's laugh, the way she leaned into Ryan, their disgusting little inside jokes about how clueless I was. It all kept looping in my head. The betrayal was bad enough, but the fact that she thought I was stupid enough to fall for it, that made it so much worse. When I finally dragged myself out of bed in the morning, Vanessa was already up. She was lounging in one of the hotel's fluffy robes, scrolling through her phone. She glanced up and gave me this bright, innocent smile, like nothing had happened. Morning, babe. Did you sleep okay? I wanted to call her out right then and there, but I didn't. Not yet. Yeah, I guess, I said, keeping my tone neutral. What about you? Like a baby, she said, stretching dramatically. I needed that. Yesterday was exhausting. I nodded and poured myself some coffee, pretending to focus on my cup while she rambled on about how much she loved the hotel. I was thinking, she said, flipping her phone around to show me a picture of a local restaurant. We could grab lunch here today. It's super cute, and I heard the food is amazing. Sure, I said, barely looking at the screen. My mind was already elsewhere. I needed to test her, to see how deep her lies would go. So, what did you end up doing yesterday? I asked casually, sitting down across from her. You were gone for a while. Vanessa didn't even flinch. Oh, just shopping, she said, waving a hand. That bag shop was incredible. I spent forever deciding which one to get. She was so smooth, so confident in her lies, it was almost impressive. But I wasn't done. Interesting, I said, leaning back in my chair. I thought I saw you near the marina yesterday. Her smile faltered just a bit. The marina? Oh no, that wasn't me. I didn't go anywhere near the water. Must have been someone else then, I said with a shrug, sipping my coffee. I could feel her watching me, trying to gauge if I was onto her. I kept my expression neutral, giving nothing away. Let her squirm. When it was time for lunch, we headed to the restaurant she'd picked out. Vanessa immediately started taking pictures of the table, the menu, and even her drink when it arrived. This is perfect, she said, angling her phone just right. My followers are going to love it. Looks great, I said, barely paying attention. I couldn't stop thinking about Ryan and how he'd probably paid for her stupid bag. I wanted to ask her outright, wanted to see her squirm, but I held back. I needed to be smart about this. Confronting her in public wouldn't get me the answers I needed. When the food came, Vanessa barely touched hers. She was too busy snapping photos and scrolling through her phone. You're so quiet, she said at one point, glancing up at me. What's on your mind? Just tired, I guess, I said. Didn't sleep great. She gave me a sympathetic smile. Aw, poor baby. We'll take it easy this afternoon, okay? Maybe do a little shopping together. The audacity of this woman. I nodded, forcing a smile. Sounds good. Eventually, we ended up at a boutique selling handmade jewelry. Vanessa picked up a necklace and held it up to her neck, turning to me with a playful smile. What do you think? Would this look good in my next post? It's nice, I said, barely looking at it. She pouted. Just nice? Come on, babe, you're supposed to hype me up. I forced a laugh. All right, it's gorgeous. Happy? Much better, she said, grinning. Then, as casually as if she were asking about the weather, she brought up marriage again. The sheer nerve of this woman. She'd been sneaking around with her ex, lying to my face, and now she was talking about marriage. I felt like I was in the twilight zone. I mean, it's something to think about, I said carefully, but I don't think we need to rush into anything. Vanessa didn't look pleased with that answer, but she didn't push. I guess, she said, her tone clipped. But eventually, right? Eventually, I said, hoping that would end the conversation. The morning of our departure started early. I slipped out of bed quietly and grabbed my phone, checking the photos I'd taken at the marina. Every time I looked at them, I felt a mix of anger and satisfaction. Anger because of what she'd done, and satisfaction because I had the proof I needed to finally end this farce of a relationship. She thought she'd played me, but the game was about to change. I started packing my things, careful not to make too much noise. Vanessa didn't stir. Of course she didn't. This was someone who could sleep through a thunderstorm. Once my suitcase was ready, I took one last look at her. I felt nothing, no sadness, no regret, no second thoughts, just a quiet, simmering rage. On my way out of the room, I stopped at the hotel's front desk. The clerk smiled politely as I handed her the key. "Checking out early?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone casual. "Just me, though. My girlfriend will be staying a little longer." The clerk nodded, not questioning it. I paid the remaining balance on the room and left instructions to inform Vanessa that her stay was extended at her own expense. Once that was done, I opened my airline app and canceled her return ticket. It felt cold, but after everything she'd done, I didn't feel like making her life easier. By the time I got to the airport, my phone was already blowing up with texts from Vanessa. She must have woken up to find me gone and the note I'd left on the nightstand. I'd kept it short and sweet. "Enjoy your extended vacation. Say hi to Ryan for me." The messages started off confused. "Where are you? Did you go out for coffee or something?" Then they shifted to panic. "Did you leave? What the hell is this note about? What do you mean extended vacation?" Finally, they turned to anger. "You canceled my ticket? Are you serious right now? You're being so dramatic." I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I turned my phone on silent and boarded my flight. The whole time, I kept picturing Vanessa back at the hotel, realizing she was stuck in a town hours away from home with no ticket, and most likely not enough money to book one on her own. She was entirely dependent on me financially, and she knew it. Without my support, her carefully curated influencer life would fall apart. When I landed back home, I turned my phone back on to an explosion of missed calls and texts. Vanessa had gone full cycle, pleading, angry, accusatory, and finally desperate. "Please, let's talk. This is insane. I didn't even do anything wrong. You're overreacting. I don't have enough money to get home. What am I supposed to do?" Her last message was the one that made me laugh out loud. "You're humiliating me. How do you think this is going to make me look?" That was always her priority, how things looked. Not the fact that she'd been caught lying, not the betrayal, not even the fact that she'd been using me for years. No, her biggest concern was her image. Classic Vanessa. I didn't reply. I didn't feel the need to explain myself or give her any closure. She'd made her choices, and now she had to live with them. I felt a sense of peace. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was just done. The next few days were quiet. I blocked Vanessa's number and deleted her from all my social media. A few mutual friends reached out, asking what had happened. Apparently, Vanessa had already started spinning her version of the story, making it sound like I'd abandoned her out of nowhere. But when I forwarded them the pictures of her and Ryan at the marina, the truth spoke for itself. "I can't believe she did that," one friend said. "That's so low." "She always seemed kind of off to me," another admitted. "You're better off without her. Better off." That phrase stuck with me. For the first time in years, I felt like I could finally focus on myself without someone draining my energy and resources. Vanessa, on the other hand, wasn't doing so well. I heard through the grapevine that she managed to get home eventually, though I didn't care enough to find out how. Without my financial support, her influencer dreams started to crumble. She couldn't afford the luxury lifestyle her followers expected, and her engagement tanked. A week later, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door just enough to see her face, but not enough to invite her in. She looked terrible, puffy eyes, messy hair, and none of the polished perfection she always flaunted online. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "Just give me 5 minutes. I can explain everything." I stared at her for a moment, feeling nothing but indifference. "I don't need an explanation," I said. "You didn't make a mistake, Vanessa. You made a choice. And now you have to deal with the consequences." She started crying, but I didn't budge. "I was stupid," she said, choking on her words. "I wasn't thinking. I don't care about Ryan. I care about you." "No, you care about what I can do for you," I said firmly, "and I'm done with that." I closed the door and locked it. Her muffled sobs faded as she walked away, and I felt lighter than I had in years. This was the ending she deserved, and I had no regrets. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages from friends. Vanessa had apparently started a full-blown pity campaign on Instagram, posting cryptic stories about being betrayed and starting over. One friend even sent me a screenshot of a post where she wrote, "Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest." I couldn't help but laugh. The audacity of this woman, trying to paint herself as the victim when she was the one sneaking around with her ex. I didn't feel the need to engage though. Let her followers believe whatever story she was spinning. I had nothing to prove. That afternoon, I got a text from one of our mutual friends, Sarah. She'd always been a straight shooter, the kind of person who didn't buy into Vanessa's influencer act. "Hey," she wrote, "Vanessa's trying to make you look like the bad guy, but I told her I know what really happened. If you want me to say anything to anyone, let me know." I appreciated the gesture, but I didn't want to give Vanessa any more of my energy. "Thanks, but I'm good," I replied. Let her dig her own grave, and dig she did. Over the next week, I started hearing more and more about how Vanessa's life was unraveling. Without me footing the bill for her clothes, trips, and professional photo shoots, her influencer persona started to crack. Her followers were used to seeing her in designer outfits, sipping lattes at chic cafes, and lounging in luxury hotels. Now, she was stuck trying to fake that lifestyle on a budget. And it wasn't working. She posted a photo wearing the same dress as last week. Sarah texted me one day. "People in the comments are starting to notice." Another friend sent me a link to one of Vanessa's Instagram stories, where she was talking about embracing minimalism and moving away from material things. It was hilarious considering this was the same woman who once told me she couldn't possibly wear the same outfit twice because it would ruin her aesthetic. The best part? Ryan, the guy she'd risked everything for, had ghosted her. I found out through a mutual acquaintance that he'd bailed as soon as Vanessa's financial situation became clear. "He's not trying to play daddy to her," they said. "She's on her own now." Good, she deserved it. The best decision I made, though, was rebooking the Montauk trip, the one I'd originally planned before Vanessa hijacked it. I went solo this time, and it was everything I wanted it to be. At one point, I checked Vanessa's account, but the posts were sporadic now. Blurry mirror selfies, random motivational quotes, and one sad attempt at a thrift haul video. Her followers had dropped significantly, and the comments were brutal. "Where's your boyfriend who used to spoil you?" one person wrote. "Fake influencer vibes," said another. It was a strange mix of satisfaction and pity. Back in Manhattan, life continued to get better. I started going to therapy, which was something I'd been putting off for years. Talking to someone about everything that happened helped me process the anger and hurt I didn't even realize I was carrying. I learned a lot about myself, why I'd let someone like Vanessa into my life, why I ignored the red flags for so long, and how I could set better boundaries moving forward. The last I heard about Vanessa was from Sarah. Vanessa had moved back in with her parents and was apparently trying to rebrand herself as a lifestyle coach. "Unreal," Sarah texted. "She's acting like she's some kind of self-help guru now. Can you believe this?" I laughed, shaking my head. Let her have it. I'm done caring. And that's it. Vanessa got what was coming to her, and I got my life back. Let me know what you think, Reddit. Ever had to deal with someone like this?